Ma'am, I ain't talking here. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of As Tole By Re. I'm Teray and this is Harper. Say hi. You say hi? No? You're not gonna say hi? There you go. Hi. Thank you. Yeah, so in today's episode, we are going to be talking about my labor and delivery experience with this one right here. She is not wanting me to put her down today, so I guess she'll be featured in this week's video as much as she would like until she won't take it down. Yeah, so make sure that you guys, if you have not subscribed already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also click the notification bell so that you can be the first to be notified when I do my uploads. So that way you'll know right then and there and you don't have to go searching for it. Also, new videos will be uploaded every week on Monday. So as always, give me some suggestions of things that you'd like for me to talk about down in the comments below, and I will be sure to look at all of them and try to incorporate as many as possible. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into today's video. So I delivered Harper on August 2nd, 2018. I can't believe it's been a year already. And I delivered her at Northside Hospital in Atlanta. Pretty much, if you live in Atlanta, you know Northside. Northside, I think, is the #1 hospital for delivering babies, I think, in the entire country. So Northside delivers a lot of babies. And pretty much, if you live in Atlanta, 9 times out of 10, you were born at Northside. Yeah, so the day I actually went into labor was on August 1st. I went to my final appointment. I was exactly 40 weeks. I went to the doctor's that morning. It was my last day before I had to go back to work if she didn't come. So I was already on edge that nothing had happened. I had took the week before she was born off work because I just honestly couldn't work anymore. From the Georgia heat to having to be at work, standing up, I just couldn't do it anymore. So I took a week's worth of vacation and I was like, well, hopefully she comes. And if she doesn't, I'm either screwed or I'm have to make something shake. So I went to the doctor's and I was dilated maybe an inch or a centimeter, not an inch, a centimeter. Nothing was happening. I had started losing my mucus plug earlier the previous week. So I just knew for sure, like, oh, I'm about to go into labor like any day. It didn't happen. So when I was at the doctor, they did a membrane stripping for me and it hurt. Like, I was not expecting it to be that kind of pain. And for anyone who doesn't know what a membrane stripping is, they basically separate your... Ma'am, I ain't talking here. Thank you. Anyway, they basically separate the lining of, I think, your uterus from the placenta, and not your body naturally does it to separate it, and that's what kind of is another thing that triggers labor. So they did that, and the doctor who did it for me promised, she was just like, usually within like 24 to 48 hours, every time I do this, you go into labor. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm not gonna have to go back to work. And literally, this was at 10 in the morning. By 11:30, I was already feeling weird. Yeah, by 11:30 a.m. I was already feeling weird. I hadn't even made it back to my house yet. I was stopped to get lunch and I went back home and kind of just relaxed for the rest of the day. I went walking around the mall. My mom was here, so it was good that she would take me every day and we would just kind of go walk. So we went to go walk around the mall and I just kept feeling weird. Like, it didn't necessarily hurt, but it definitely didn't feel normal. So I was like, okay, well, I think I'm in labor. So I started making a list of all the times that I felt this weird feeling, which now that I know, they were actually contractions. So I would make a list of when I started feeling them. We got back home, and by the time we got back home, they were 8 minutes apart. So we kind of stayed home. Nothing happened. Well, I was still having contractions. They were starting to get worse, and I could like feel them. I'm like, okay. First, it was like, okay, just a feeling. Now I'm uncomfortable. Like I can't do this. So this was closer to maybe 10 o'clock, 11 at night, and they were just like coming back to back to back. And at this point, they had got to about 6.5 minutes apart. And I called my doctor and let her know, hey, I'm having contractions. They're 6.5 minutes apart. I had to actually go into the hospital. She wanted me to go into the hospital once I got to 5 minutes apart because I had like strep B or something like that. Whatever that test is that they give you that to see if you have it, I had that. So I had to get antibiotics before I could deliver her because you can pass it along through labor, through delivery, and she would have gotten it if I didn't get the antibiotics in enough time. So she said to go ahead and go into the hospital, and honestly, I was in pain. Like I couldn't walk around my house anymore. Like sitting down wasn't comfortable. Nothing was comfortable. So we left, we went to the hospital. We got there, we ended up getting to the hospital maybe about 1 in the morning. And literally when I got there is when shit just went to pieces. I got there and Northside is so busy that as I'm pulling up, there are 3 other women pulling up in labor at the same time as me. We get to the registration counter. All of us are in wheelchairs. They put you in a wheelchair. One lady is like crying hysterically, like bawling her eyes out. Another lady is throwing up. And you have me, and I'm just like, oh my God, what the hell is going on in here? So I'm sitting there in the wheelchair, and my mom is taking care of like all the insurance information, getting me signed in. I had already pre-registered. She just had to fill out the remaining paperwork and give them my insurance cards. Colin went to go park the car. So finally, I get admitted and I get into my room. Once I get into the room, it's perfectly fine. The room was really spacious and really nice. We had did the maternity tour prior, like a couple weeks prior, so we already knew what the room was going to look like. Yes. So it was perfectly fine. When we got there, you know, you get hooked up to the machines for the nurses, and they did let me walk around because I hadn't had any, I hadn't had an epidural at that point, so I was able to get up and walk around. Getting up and walking around it did nothing for me. It didn't help. Honestly, I started walking around and I got stuck in the hallway because I was having more painful contractions at this point, and they were so strong, like I couldn't move my body. Like I couldn't move an inch, and I was just like, no, I want to go back to my room. I like an epidural. And at this point, it's closer to almost 3 in the morning. I'm like, I just literally, what are you doing? So I'm just like, I literally can't do this. So I told the doctors that I want the epidural. They come in, administer everything. That was an experience that I absolutely hated. When I originally went there, I didn't want to get any medication. And I was like, oh, I can do this. But I was in so much pain that I just physically, I couldn't take it anymore. But the epidural really, really hurt. Like I felt it. I didn't like it. I could feel my bones shifting as they're trying to insert the needle, and they're like, oh, stay still, stay still. And I'm like, how do you want me to stay still when you're sticking a needle this long into my spine? I can't sit perfectly still. It was just, I hated it. But it did help. Once it started to kick in, it did help in that I was able to go to sleep. This was the only time that I had slept that whole day. So I was getting up around maybe 7 in the morning that day, and it was 3 a.m. and I was still awake. So this actually helped so I could fall asleep. That was the only thing that was helpful about that epidural. Fast forward maybe to about 6 a.m. my water broke, and there were some complications because her heart rate was dropping every time I had a contraction. So we had this one doctor that when he came in, he kept trying to basically say that, oh, well, if things don't improve, then we're going to do a C-section. He kept mentioning it and kept pushing, oh, we're going to have to do a C-section. Oh, we're going to have to do a C-section. And it was physically making me upset. Like, I was literally sitting there starting to cry. And he left the room. My mom left the room. So I don't know what my mom said to this guy, but needless to say, he did not come back ever again. I never saw him again the entire time I was at the hospital. So that was one thing that I really did not like, is instead of trying to just kind of naturally work through things and monitor things as labor progressed, he was so eager to kind of push a C-section. And if you know anything about Northside Hospital has a high C-section rate. So that's something typically that they do, is they try to push women into having a C-section because there's so many women in labor at the same time. And really, it's more convenient for the doctor to just do a series of C-sections than kind of just wait hours to see how labor progresses. So he left, never came back. We had another doctor that came and just kind of monitored everything. I had Pitocin as well to kind of get labor to progress and to get my contractions to kind of be a little bit more stable, especially for them monitoring her heart rate to see why they were, it would just drop when I would have a contraction. But the Pitocin didn't work. The Pitocin made it worse. On the little monitor, my contractions were like over 100, and even the epidural couldn't like subdue the pain. I was still feeling it. I could still tell when I was having a contraction, and I felt damn near all of it. It just wasn't as intense as when I first got to the hospital. So fast forward, it's 1 in the afternoon. Finally, she was ready. Like, I could feel it. I was just like, she's gonna fall out any second. It was like unbearable. At this point, the epidural had 100% wore off, and I felt every ounce of pain. I felt it as if I hadn't even gotten the epidural. So she was born. My mom and my fiance were there to help me out through the delivery. It was good. Like, that part was perfectly fine. Boom, done with that. It went really smoothly. I only made it to 8 centimeters dilate. I couldn't make it to 10, and she was ready to come out, and I was ready for her to get out. So I was fine with the 8. Oh, now look what you did. I was fine with the 8 centimeters, and she came out just fine. I got some minor stitches, and we were good to go. The other thing for labor and delivery, it is so important. I think I've said this before. It is so important to have a really good support system. If I didn't have Colin and I didn't have my mom there, it probably would have been a disaster. She was there to kind of help both of us, just to, keep Colin calm that everything that, is going on is normal. Things like that, things that he didn't understand. Because my mom has had 3 kids, she can explain it to him, and she can also explain it to me to kind of keep me calm. And she can talk to the doctors when I'm just like, I can't even put a sentence together at this point. So she was really good at helping the both of us. So shout out to you, Mom. Thank you, because I don't know what we would have done if you weren't there, because that doctor trying to force a C-section on me, he was gonna get it. So really having a good support system to help you out through the entire process. Yes. Okay, so now that I've told you guys about my labor and delivery experience, I want to tell you guys about things that I would do differently. So for my next kid, whenever that happens, I do not want to go to a hospital. I just felt like the hospital that I would be scheduled to give birth at, Northside, it's just a lot going on. There's so many people. The doctors are pushing C-sections. Now that I know that their C-section rate is about 39%, it's also one of the highest in the country. It's 39%. I just don't feel comfortable going there. Having experienced it myself with the doctor pretty much his only solution was to say that, oh, we're gonna have to do a C-section, it just doesn't make me feel comfortable that I could go back there and not be concerned that they're gonna try to talk me into getting a C-section. And honestly, sometimes when you're in so much pain and if you've gotten any kind of medication at that point, sometimes you kind of don't have enough of the wherewithal to process exactly what they're telling you to say that, yes, I want to do this, and no, that I don't want to do this. So that's one reason that I would not like to do that. And I just would like to experience doing it 100% completely natural. I love to stay at home. I actually would love to do a home birth in the little like pool, like the little water birth. And if I can't do that, then I'll probably go to a birthing center and do it that way. So I think that is all for this week's video. I don't have anything else to say. You got something to say? Now you don't got nothing to say. Yeah, so I will see you guys in the next one. And again, if you ain't subscribed to my channel, just go ahead and hit that notification bell. Yeah, tell them Heart. Yep. Tell them. Hit the notification bell if you haven't already, so that way you can get notifications when I upload. Because if you watched all the way until now, you might as well. What is it gonna hurt? So yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. And as usual, thanks for watching. Say bye. You say bye? All right, we gotta go. Bye.